I think disruptive innovation has a huge future in clinical trials. In fact, to ensure its survival, to get companies to get successful treatments out to market, things have to change. Whether it's using new digital technologies to engage patients, whether it's figuring out new ways to run the entire conduct of a clinical trial and design new protocols to ensure success from the very beginning, it has to change. There are a deluge of new data coming in, the ability to continuously track patients remotely in a clinical trial that not only can gather more insight as to what's happening to them in the real world before a drug gets approved, but also potentially early detect and screen patients that might have the markers for disease in the future using new types of tools and technologies and big data that doesn't even exist today. And that's the type of thing that's really going to disrupt the clinical trial process and get treatments to market faster.
We're in a world that is increasingly connected. People have a way of getting at information and getting at the things that they care about in a much easier and more transparent way, and the clinical trial has to follow suit. We have to have ways of communicating with patients, really with all patients as a whole, rather than thinking through the specific needs of specific clinical trials. We have to think about incremental ways of engaging patients rather than the all-or-nothing clinical trial or bust. We have to be able to communicate about the trial and communicate about the procedures, the updates, the information about it. On mobile, we have to communicate it to people in social ways. We essentially need to bring all the trial infrastructure, which was invented probably in the 1950s, and we need to bring it up into 2016.
I think, disrupting the process of clinical trials is one of the things I think would disrupt the process is involving patients more. That might slow down some of the processes that are currently in place, but in the long run end in better clinical trials, better outcomes, and obviously successful trials as well. Having the patient voice involved in the clinical trial is so critical. On behalf of Sjogren's patients, we work hard to make sure the Sjogren's voice is heard in the clinical trials with all the companies that we work with, and that their voice is utilized to change the protocols, the designs of clinical trials, and obviously the use of outcome measures and patient-reported outcomes as well.
So when we think of disruptive innovation, we think of how we can get the right tools to researchers to propel their research forward. Kind of like what we do here, which is we connect scientists to academic core facilities or CROs so that they can get their work done more efficiently.
So for us, disruptive technologies probably means along the lines of single-use technology. We're kind of a new entrance into the biotech marketplace. We've been in business for 40 plus years in the pharmaceutical side, but in the biotech industry that is still a relatively young industry compared to the typical pharma industry, there's a lot of new technologies in single use that's really changing the marketplace. It's helping to reduce cost, to reduce labor, and to free up resources to do other types of more innovative work. And I think that is going to really change the industry, and you see it happening all over the place now in the biotech industry.
I think disruption in the clinical trial space is a good thing if it gives a way to look at trial design in a different way. So we at Concierge offer a way to think of the patient and caregiver's needs at the beginning of the process, so designing the trial around patient caregiver needs. So thinking in terms of what would make it easier for the patients to participate in the study and anticipating the costs of doing that or the cost of not doing that. And actually, it's commonsensual to our company, Concierge, as providing customer service in a way and thinking of that in those terms. But it affects clinical trials in a positive way by, for instance, all of the studies that we're supporting, we're at 90% patient retention or higher. And that's because we're overcoming the obstacles to patients participating in trials by handling the financial costs up front and providing high-touch level of coordination for the patient and caregiver between the site and the patient.
The nature of clinical trials, we know they're very complex. We hear that all day long here at this conference. And there are a lot of people and companies involved providing different services that all collectively are attempting to make the process easier, but sometimes we make it more complicated. So I think the kind of disruptive technology that would really move things along in quantum leap for us would be the method or the ability to integrate the different providers of different services in a way that they're collectively the offering becomes seamless to the end users, to the patients, to the site staff who have to conduct the study. And I think if you're looking for something that is really disruptive and moves us on to a new level, it's that real integration, not just the talking that we've all been doing for the last number of years, but actually getting on with it, making that happen.